So we'll start with a mantra that's really the first line of the 18,000 verse Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll do it responsibly to continue to invoke auspiciousness in our gathering. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 5, Text 1. We're starting a new chapter today. Third Canto, Chapter 5, Text 1. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesh Vibhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seveya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. This chapter 5 of 3rd Canto is entitled Vidura's Talks with Maitreya. Okay. So actually this is the first chapter of these talks. And these talks will continue for 60 chapters till the end of the 4th canto. So it's like an auspicious beginning here. Mm-hmm. So we'll be with Vidura and Maitreya for, at the pace we go, another 20 years or so. We could change our pace, but even if we do it, so it's like 60 chapters. It's a substantial part. 60. 60.
Not verses, but chapters.
Chapters,
yeah. 60 chapters.
60 chapters.
What? Maitreya.
Of Vidura and Maitreya speaking through the end of the 3rd canto and through the whole. So the 3rd canto has 33 chapters, 4th canto has 31 chapters. And these talks between Vidura and Maitreya start on chapter 5 of canto, 60 chapter, not 60 verses. So no, we're here for some decades. Okay. So we'll start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Shuka uvacha. Vari. Junadya. Ishaba. Punam. Maitreyam. Asinam. Agadhabodham. Shata. Upasritya. Achyuta. Bhava. Siddha. Papracha. Soshilya. Guna Abhitripta. Shri Shukovacha. Tvari Junandya Rishabhakunam. Maitreya Masina Magatha Bodham. Kshato Pasritya Chutabhava Siddha. Kaprachasa Shila Guna Vitripta. Shri Shukuvacha. Parijunadya Rishabhakunam. Maitreya Masina Magata Bodham.
Maitreya Masina Magada Bodham.
Shatopasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Topasritya Chuta Siddha.
Paprachasa Shila Guna Vitripta.
Shila Gunita.
Sri Shukovacha.
Vacha.
Praradi Junadya Rishabha Kumunam.
Junadya Rishabha.
Maitreya Masina Magadha Bodham.
Maitreya Masina Magada.
Shatopasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Shatopasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Paprachasa Shila Guna Vitripta.
Shila Guna Vitripta. Shri Shukavacha.
Sri Shukovacha.
Parijinadya Rishabha Karunam.
Parijinadya Rishabha Karunam.
Matreya Masina Magada Bodham.
Maitreya Masina Magada Bodham.
Shatopasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Shatopasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Papachaso Shilya Guna Vitriptaha.
Paprachasa Shilya Guna Vitripta. Would anyone else like to recite the verse?
Huh? Go ahead. Shri Shukavacha.
Shri Shukovacha.
Varit Duyanadya Arshabha Kurunam.
Parijinadya Rishabha Karunam.
Maitreya Masinam Agatha Batham.
Maitreya Masina Magada Bodham.
Shatopar Trish Yasachya Bhavasidha.
Pasritya Chutabhava Siddha.
Papracha Sayatilya Guna Tirkaha.
Paprachasa Shilya Guna Vitripta. Would anyone online like to recite the verse? Okay. So we'll go to the word meanings. Shuka Uvacha.
Shukavacha.
Shukadev Goswami said,
Shukadev Goswami said,
Davari,
Wari.
on the mouth of
Also.
Yunadya,
Raja.
the celestial river Ganges.
Jesus.
Rishabha,
Shakwa.
the best of the Kurus.
Rest of
Purunam,
Purnam.
of the Kurus. Maitreyam,
Maitreya.
unto Maitreya.
Maitreya.
Asinam,
Asina.
sitting.
Sitting.
Gadha Bodham,
Yadaboja.
of unfathomed knowledge. Jata,
Shakta.
Vidura. Upasritya,
Upashitya.
having approached nearer. Achyuta,
Chita.
the infallible Lord.
Infallible.
Bhava, character. Siddha,
Sita.
perfect.
Perfect.
Racha,
Vacha.
inquired.
Vaya.
Saushilya,
Vasya.
gentleness.
Gentleness,
Abhitripta,
Abhitripta,
satisfied in transcendental qualities.
satisfies in transcendental quality.
Translation. Shukadev Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the mouth of the celestial Ganges River, Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless learned sage of the world, was seated, Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu. Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. The Lord and the living entities are all qualitatively the same by nature, but the Lord is quantitatively much greater than any individual living entity. He is ever infallible, whereas the living entities are prone to fall under the illusory energy. Vidura had already surpassed the fallible nature of the living entity in conditional life due to his being achutabhava, or legitimately absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord. This stage of life is called achutabhava siddha, or perfection by dint of devotional service. Anyone, therefore, who is absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and has all admirable qualities. The learned sage Maitreya was sitting in a solitary place on the bank of the Ganges at Hardwar, and Vidura, who was a perfect devotee of the Lord and possessed all good transcendental qualities, approached him for inquiry. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to recite a few more mantras to continue to expand the auspiciousness of our gathering. And you can listen, you can chant along if you know the mantras. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svaya Mupakadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. It's March 26, 2023. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text 1. Shri Shukuvacha Dvarijunadya Rishabhaku Namaitraya Masina Magada Bodham Ksatopasritya Chutbhavasidha Papracha Sashilya Guna Vitripta. Shukadev Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the mouth of the celestial Ganges River, Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Hare Krishna. All right. Yeah. So we've been with Vidura in the first canto and the first 4 chapters here, and then here he's encountering Maitreya. This will go on for 60 chapters. Bhagavatam is 335 chapters, so this is a big segment of the book. And so in the verse, it's described that Vidura, he was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence. And in the first line of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. So Vidura, he is an enlightened personality. He's a self-realized soul, Okay, so we want to associate with self-realized souls, or at least those who are dedicated on the path of self-realization, because we're influenced for better or worse by those who we associate with. So if we're associated with those who are dedicated to expand lust, greed, and envy, then we can know that our lust, greed, and envy will expand. And if we're dedicated to those, associated with those dedicated to spiritual qualities, then our spiritual qualities of gentleness and self-satisfaction and empowerment and peace and fulfillment and joy will also expand. So it's association, there's association like we're having here, some online, some here, physical association. And there's so Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual teacher here, and he emphasizes that physical association with self-realized souls is wonderful, but it's not really the most emphasized form of association. The most emphasized form is Vani. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great teacher in our line, said he reasons ill who tell that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. So because the Srimad Bhagavatam, every word from Srila Prabhupada, every word from Vidura, the questions he asks, one thing we can see, even though he's already a perfected soul, what's he doing? He's asking questions. Okay? These are the activities of the soul alive in transcendence. We're always eager to deepen our understanding of Krishna, deepen our understanding of spiritual life. So spiritual means not material, which means that we talked about this a bit earlier. So spiritual is absolute. So each word from Vidura, each word from Srila Prabhupada, it conveys truth. And simultaneously it's non-different from the truth that it conveys. That's why each vibration is imbued with transcendental transformational potency, whatever we cognitively understand or not, because it conveys truth and it's non-different from the truth that it conveys. That's the meaning of absolute. Okay. So Vidura is self-realized soul, to be grounded in what's that mean in a foundational way. So self-realized means because this self-realization, self-discovery, self-awareness, these words are going around a lot, more and more each decade. So what's it mean here? So in a foundational sense, self-realized means there's a Vidura. And Srila Prabhupada, he's giving us the Sanskrit, the translations into English, and the meanings in the purport. We get to be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this transcendental process and knowledge. So it means that there's no misidentification of the eternal spiritual self with the temporary body. Okay. So basic foundational principle described later in the Bhagavatam, Bhayam Dvitiya Biniveshatasya. What that means is the root cause of all insecurity, the root cause of all anxiety. First we get, this is not just some detached abstract philosophy. Okay. I feel safe to say we've all experienced insecurity and anxiety. If we had the 7.2 billion people of the earth at Bhagavatam class today, we could safely say, if you've ever experienced insecurity and anxiety, and if they're honest, like ever, oh yeah, I've experienced insecurity. So the root cause of all Anxiety and insecurity is misidentification of the timeless spiritual self with a temporary body. Okay. Timeless spiritual. So Vidura has no such misidentification. There's a text early in the Bhagavad Gita. Hinosmin yata dehe komaram yovinam jara tatadehantara praptir jiras tatranamuyati. That text says, as the embodied soul continually passes from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. The sober, self-realized person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, so the body changes. The body changes. Yeah. A borrowing from Srila Prabhupada, a thought experiment we like to do. We'll do a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're looking at a photo of yourself from when you were 5 years old. Now, when we look at that photo, do we say, who is this stranger? Who? No, we don't say that. That's David when I was 5. We say, that's Christy when I was 5. But now we know from basic science, that there's not one molecule, not one atom in the body now that was there at 5. We could say the body grew, but that's not true. It's not like the molecules and the atoms grew bigger. No, the parts are completely replaced. Still, there's some constant identity. I call David. Like that indicates that identity is completely non-material. Completely non-material. So that's logic to understand who we are and who we're not. And then a self-realized soul like Vidura, he's not just logically understanding, but he's living as the spirit soul. Yesterday morning, I visited my accountant's office. It's the season where accountants are in their office on Saturdays. Okay. So my accountant, I guess my rough estimate is he's been in that body a little longer than I've been in this body. So I've been in this body about 62 years. Okay. That's not technically true, because technically I'm not in the same body I was in when I walked through that door at 5 a.m. today. Right? But still, the body's always changing. But anyhow, at one point, I don't know, somehow he was going to a philosophical place, and I think he was like straining to see with his eyes. And so he said, wow, he said, I still feel like I'm 18 years old. I said, yeah, I feel like I'm 16. Yeah. So like he's experiencing himself as the same person, like 50 years later. He said, I feel like I'm 18 years old. He said, and then I look into the mirror. And I go, yeah, then we realize, we're not 18 years old. So meaning, it's like, no, we have this constant identity. It's the same person that was in the 5-year-old body, in the 16, the 18-year-old body, like that. So it was a whole philosophical excursion in the process of getting my taxes done. So that's what life is for. That's what life is for. That wherever we go, we give and receive value related to the higher principles of life. It's the opportunity. So another analogy Srila Prabhupada often gives, very similar to it, just like we're not, like the body's like a vehicle. It's like a vehicle, it's like a car. So we're not the car, we're the driver of the car. We don't want to neglect the car. But like that, let's say if we hear that there is a car crash, we immediately ask, did you get the insurance money? Is the car in the junkyard? No. We say, was anyone hurt? Did anyone get injured? Did anyone die? Because we know the car has some value. But the driver of the car is much more important. Maybe later when we find out there was no injuries, we say, is the car, was it dented? How much will it cost to fix? But that's secondary. So that's an analogy. So we know we give so much time and probably so much talk to this body, taking care of the eating, the sleeping, and and not that we should neglect it. What's it mean? If we can keep ourselves on mute if we're not speaking here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. What's it mean to nourish and nurture the driver of the car? Get to extend that analogy and say if we get the car washed every week, we make sure it's filled up with fluids and gas and get the oil change and whatever other things people do to take care of cars. I wouldn't be the one to ask for that. So, okay. But then it's like, oh, but I haven't drank water in a few days and I haven't eaten and I haven't taken a shower in a month. And someone says, yeah, you look terrible. No, look, the car's in great shape. It just got waxed. Yeah, but that's not you. Okay. So what's it? So the spirit soul, that irreducible quanta of consciousness, that atomic unit of sentience that travels on from the baby body to the teenage body to the 18-year-old to the 50 to the 60. Okay, what's it mean to nurture the soul? So personality like Vidura, he's completely absorbed in nurturing the soul, in the activities that give life to the soul, food for the soul, food for the driver of the car, okay? That conscious entity. Right. So again, what are those activities? And that's described here. And that's really what this whole Bhagavatam is about. So it says that Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. So that's the essence there. Okay. That's the essence there. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of like a fish out of water. So because we're undying, Jayate Muyate Vakarachin Yamutva Avita Vanabuya Ajonichim Jaspato Yam Parano Hanite Hani Mane Sharire. For the soul, there's neither birth nor death, nor having once been does the soul ever cease to be. He is unborn, undying, primeval, everlasting, eternal. He's not slain when the body is slain. So again, we get that, we're good. We get that. That's what it means to be unstoppable. Then there's no fear. Because then that's what it means, like whatever cataclysm the world might offer, a pandemic, people insulting us, people disrespecting us, a financial downturn, whatever, like, can't touch me. Right? No. Socrates is known to have said, like, like that you can give me hemlock, you can't kill me because you can't catch me, you can't find me. Only the body dies. Again, that's not technically true. Technically, the body is already dead. Don't mean to be morbid here, just in the same, yeah.
We should share this because I asked once, but we actually, Prabhu and I wanted to share with everyone. It's not that it's true.
Yeah.
And I have permission to share. Well, by Buddha, not his mom, but his mom said she experiences herself as a walking corpse.
Yeah.
That's her experience right now.
Yeah.
It's just we laugh a little because it's true, but it's not necessarily that she's laughing.
Yeah. So I hear she's suffering a lot. She's feeling practically dead, and everybody's a walking corpse. Now, that doesn't mean to the extent that we're alive to ourselves as spirit, soul, servants of Krishna. Okay, then we experience life. But the body, just like the car analogy. we can say the car appears alive, like say an alien from the Andromeda galaxy were to visit, and that you say, oh, there's these living entities called Toyota and Chevrolet and Volkswagen. Sometimes these other living, sometimes these other parasite living entities called human beings get in like that. But no, actually, the Honda and the Toyota and the Renault and the Dodge, they're dead. Right? It's made of dead stuff, rubber, metal, plastic. The car is dead. Now they appear alive when the human being gets inside. So similarly, the body's made of dead stuff. And it appears alive when the spirit soul inhabits it. Okay. So liberation, Prabhupada references the verse here. Anyone, therefore, who is absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and is all admirable quality. So that's like the highest perfection of life, to align our desires with God's desires. Krishna is a name for God. Okay. And to align our desires with God's desires. And then our actions, our thoughts, our words, the way we relate, the way we work, the way we play, everything we do is intended with knowledge, not sentimentally, not whimsically. It's intended to serve God with love and devotion. And Prabhupada's emphasizing the point. Vidura is on that platform. So when we're engaged in the life of the soul, service to God, that's called bhakti, the technical term is bhakti, then we're liberated. It's not that the disturbances of the world go away, but dhirasta tranamuyati, then we're not disturbed by the disturbances. To think, I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied, I'll be peaceful. As soon as I just fix this disturbance, and as soon as I make that adjustment, and as soon as this one does that, as soon as when this one stops judging me, and as soon as the economy, that's always chasing the carrot on the stick. Mogasha moga karmino, always a recipe for frustration. So Vidura, he's Atmarama. Atmarama shtamuneo nigranti apyurukrami, Ravanti hetu kim bhakti itambuta uno bhavi. Atmarama means self-satisfied, means there's no more illusion that my bliss, my happiness, my peace, my security, my fulfillment is based on anything external. So Vidura is 100% absorbed in serving Krishna with devotion. Again, the technical term for that is bhakti or bhakti yoga. And so the good news about that, and that's how we're men, we have the opportunity to follow in the line of Vidura, follow in the line of Srila Prabhupada and these self-realized bhakti yogis. Dharmasvanustita pumsam vishvaksena katasya no padiyadya dirati shama evahi kevalam. So we're encouraged, whatever we do, right? This bhakti yoga, it's a very world-embracing process. It's not world-rejecting. Whatever our profession, whatever our relationships, whatever our situation with family, however we interact with the world, it's not about changing it. It's about dovetailing it. It's about anasaktasya visham yatam upayunjateni banda Krishna samade yuktam vairagi mujate. It's about putting bhakti, putting Krishna in the center, whether we do teaching or we're in the medical field or we're raising children. Put Krishna in the center, right? So this isn't about, actually, many are familiar with the story of Bhagavad Gita, the true transformational story of Arjuna. Arjuna was thinking that his spiritual life would be to run away from the battlefield, to go to the forest and meditate. But for Arjuna, that would be an escape. No, his dharma, his dharma is to be a warrior and to fight for virtue and good causes, to protect people and ready to be warrior, and to do that for Krishna. So that was his realization. So this process is not about running away from life. It's about cultivating a consciousness, an intelligence, a spiritual intelligence, how to get realization, how to respond to all aspects of the world, including the disturbing aspects, in such a way that for myself and others, we're enhancing our enthusiasm for self-realization and developing love for God. Love for God. So even in this body, so we do that in this body, and then we realize the disturbances, and we're not disturbed by the disturbances. That's peace. That's liberation. So this very blissful, ecstatic, free, liberated state of consciousness, it's not a matter of be good now, die, and go to heaven, and then enjoy. I mean, there are when the soul leaves this body, then according to the consciousness we develop, we go to the next body. To the extent that we're fully Krishna conscious, and we're no longer forced to get another material body that's subject to Jnana, Mrityu, Jara, Dukkha, Dosha, and Darshana, birth, death, old age, disease. Prabhupada, these are the real problems. Birth, death, old age, disease. Everything else is sort of like a subsidiary distracting thing. But this is like Bhagavatam, Vidura, Srila Prabhupada, Maitreya, Buddha. They're encouraging us. Make an eternal, enduring solution to the real problems of life. Meaning, live in such a way where we won't be forced to get another body that's subject to birth, death, old age, disease. So that's what the soul does in perfect enlightenment. Serve God with love and devotion. And we get to practice that here under the guidance of a true spiritual teacher like Srila Prabhupada. We get to practice that while in this body. And then then what's called death, another analogy. We steal all our analogies from Srila Prabhupada. Another analogy Prabhupada uses a lot about like the cat's jaws. Right? So the cat's jaws represent death and the accompanying factors of death, like old age and disease. So cat's jaws represent death. So then Prabhupada would ask, so what's the experience of the cat's jaws from the point of view of the mouse or the rat? It's terrifying, terrifying. Then, okay, same cat's jaws. What's the experience from the point of view of the kitten? Oh, it's very nurturing, sheltering, warm, loving, safe. So similarly, for one like Vidura, who's living their life in complete 100% devotion to Sri Krishna's personality of Godhead, then death, old age, disease, warm, loving, safe, and to the extent that we're living our life for those pleasures and gratifications that will be crushed by time, then death, old age, then it's terrifying. Then it's terrifying. So important, important philosophical principle on which all of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is based. Describe that there are two. So there's the soul, that's us, and then there's the supreme soul, it's Krishna. So there's the philosophy of Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. We could summarize the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam and all these talks between Vidura and Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, which means simultaneously one with and different from. Simultaneously one and different, simultaneous and inconceivable. So it can be said, because there's different philosophies like, you are God, you just haven't realized it yet. So then it gets into the question, how can God be in ignorance? Okay? If I'm God, the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, creator of the stars and the moon, how come this morning it was difficult to find my car keys? Profound.
Illusion is God.
My pastime. Yes. Illusion, that means that illusion is God. So that means that then illusion is God. Then even that statement, that statement's filled with illusion. So there's yes. So there's countless defects in that It just makes people feel good. You know, oh yes, I'm God. So we're not God, but in a sense we are. Again, Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada gave the example of like, here we are, let's say, 7:15 a.m. this morning. And we might say, the sun is coming into the home. And that's true, because the sun rays are non-different from the sun. The sun rays are non-different. The sun rays are the sun. Same time when we say the sun is coming in to the Frusella home, we're not saying that the sun glows here in this living room. The sun globe is actually like 1.4 million times the volume of Earth. So the sun rays, they are the sun, but they're not exactly the same. They're not completely different. Similarly, we're like the rays of Krishna. We're like the rays of God, right? So we're not exactly the same as Krishna. We're not completely different. Just like the sun rays, yeah, they heat and they illuminate, just like the sun glow. There's certainly a difference in quantity. That's where Prabhupada goes here. The Lord and the living entities are all qualitatively the same by nature. We're eternal. God's eternal. We're full of bliss. We're full of cognizance, and so is God. But the Lord is quantitatively much greater than any individual living entity. So there's oneness and there's difference. And you might say that difference, that separation is bridged. How? By that process of bhakti, by voluntarily engaging in devotional service to Krishna. And by doing that, then we naturally experience all the qualities that are inherent in the soul, gentleness and satisfaction and fulfillment. So this is a very practical, psychological, philosophically grounded process of bhakti yoga to consistently, steadily experience all the qualities that we're searching for. Again, security, fulfillment, peace, vibrancy, vitality, life, gentleness, love, to be loved, loving, power. And so the process is just what we've been doing the past 4 hours. Right? And the process is available for us to engage in up to 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Okay. So, and the more I engage myself in the process, the more I want to go towards that 24 hours per day. And in a sense, the more I engage in the process, the more foolish I feel for like, why don't I do this all the time? Because like this really works when I go off the path, because there's no force. Krishna speaks whole Bhagavad Gita Arjuna. And at the end he says, he says, hey Arjuna, do as you wish to do. Fully honoring the free will, the self-determination of Arjuna. Arjuna is a real historical personality, and he represents us, the conditioned soul. So Krishna, there's no force, no coercion. Once there's force, once there's coercion, once there's manipulation, then there's no love. Love means a voluntary exchange of service and affection and understanding between two living entities, or more than two. So there's no force. So it's true, like, because like when here I am with sincere persons, enthused, inspired by self-realization, distinguishing truth from illusion, like that, and cleansing the diamond of the heart. And we're engaging in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, just like, yeah, why don't I engage in this process all the time? And but still, due to lack of sincerity, for complete surrender, I'll go off of this process, which I'm allowed to do, and then whether I'm on the path of bhakti or not on the path of bhakti, I always get validation of the veracity of the path. Okay. So as far as the process, yeah, again, like, there's different, like, essentially, it's called Krishna consciousness. So consciousness means a consciousness. It's not essentially about doing something. At the same time, there are things we can do that support and inspire that consciousness, and things we can do that alienate the self from the self. So it's not even essentially about good, bad, right, wrong, sinful. If we define sin in its essence, that speech, that activity, that alienates the self from the self and dampens our inspiration to serve God with loving devotion, we can call that sin. Okay. So just like here, it's like, okay, so we're okay. It's like rise early in the morning, rise like before sunrise. Okay. So there's certainly an aspect of my conditioned self, the mind, that would be like, nah, let's sleep till the sun is high in the sky. Some of you are nodding your heads like that would be a good idea. Right? What? But just like in any field, let's say if someone wants to be a world-class athlete or a world-class musician, or someone wants to be a PhD in physics. So it's understood. Giving up some immediate gratification, like sleeping late, going to the beach every weekend, partying every night, some immediate gratification for some long-term enduring fulfillment. So it's the same with spiritual. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of all the sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. But it's natural for humans to engage in physics, chemistry, math, art, theater, and engineering, and there's all these professions, and that's very natural. And 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 uh, uh, and the most important endeavor in the human form of life is the self-realization and God consciousness. Another analogy from Prabhupada, like he says, like if we have a string of zeros, 5 zeros, 10 zeros, 20, 100 zeros, what's the value? The value is a big zero. So those zeros represent the different compartments of life. Perhaps my physical fitness, or what's my bank account look like? What kind of house do I live in? We know it's all empty if we're lost to ourselves. It's all empty, all empty. Now the one, if we put a one in front of the zeros, well, then the one gives value. Then it becomes a great, and it becomes trillions and quadrillions. So the one, that's self-realization, distinguishing the body from the self, spirit from matter, and service to Krishna, a bhakti yoga. So we put the one in front. Okay, then those other compartments of life take on richness, fullness, and meaning. So things like rising early, chanting Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Well, you see, like if we're chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or any bona fide names of God, if we do that once for 1 minute in our lifetime, that's wonderful. And Srila Prabhupada recommends that if we each day of our life make substantial progress out of the ocean of material existence, or another analogy, out of samsara dava nalaniloka shinaya karunya ganaganatvam, out of the blazing forest fire of material suffering, and towards the self awakening to itself and self-realization, and towards love of God. And Srila Prabhupada recommends to make a commitment. Like this morning we chanted japa. He recommends like if we want to be serious about Krishna consciousness, at least 16 rounds per day. Again, it's not an all or nothing process. Let's say we say, okay, I'll make a vow, at least I'll chant 1 round per day. But it's all about choice. It's all about choice. And it's about what's my goal? What's my goal? And like to achieve any worthwhile goal in any area, pretty much always requires disciplining ourselves, doing things that the materially conditioned senses and mind don't want to do for that spiritual bliss, for higher bliss. And then, there's some regulative principles like if we, like this philosophy, this process requires like the capacity to realize subtle nuances to achieve this dynamic peace. So let's say if in our relationship with eating, if we're eating the results of gross violence, dead animals like that, it's not going to be conducive. I mean, apart from the ethical and the moral and the ecological, apart from those considerations, but like we're eating the result of gross violence, how's that going to produce the peaceful consciousness we're looking at? So a vegetarian diet, or higher than a vegetarian diet, a prasadam diet, which means food prepared with a minimum amount of violence, and food, not just thanking God for the food, but food prepared with love and devotion in service to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Then even the eating process, and even the eating process becomes part of our spiritual life. So I'll read the verse again, and then I'll be glad to hear if anyone would like to share any comments, realizations, or ask any questions. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text 1. The chapter is entitled Vidura's Talks with Maitreya. Shri Shukuvacha Varijunatya Rishabhapuna Maitreya Masina Magada Buddham Kshato Pasritya Chutabhava Siddha Apracha Soshilya Guna Vitripta. Shukadev Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the mouth of the celestial Ganges River, Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great, fathomless, learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your presence. Thanks for listening. I welcome at this time any comments or questions.
So,
Achintya Prabhu.
the association of another devotion, that means pretty much inquire from him.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. You're looking at that term, association of the unalloyed devotee.
Yeah, because sometimes we think an association is just like lots of prajalpa, but in reality, it's like, what does association mean?
Yeah. Thanks for your question. Great question, in my opinion. Yeah, this is sort of a question that follows in the line of Vidura and Maitreya. Yeah, so association, yeah, just like, yeah, I could be like associating with someone else who identifies as a devotee, and we can just talk about the weather, the politics, or even the organizational politics, or like that, but it's not really like energizing. Krishna Kata. So this is a great question. So a quintessential verse, Bhagavad Gita, Tadviti Pranipatina, Paripashtina Sevya, Upadekshanti Tekinam Ganinas Takadarshina. Yeah, to associate. And association is not intrinsically about physically being in the same room, just like now. This past 1 hour, we're associating with Srila Prabhupada through transcendental sound vibration. We're associating with Vidura and inquire submissively and render service, so that the intention in the association is anartha nivritti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things that get in the way of true spiritual life, and in enhancing our realization of who we are as spirit soul, Jivara Supuri Krishnara Nityadas, and servants of Krishna, not the body. So yeah, because even if we're like, oh yeah, we both wear neck beads, so we're associating with the devotees. What's the quality of the vibration? Is it actually is actually uplifting in Krishna consciousness, or is it just covering us further as conditioned souls? So that's such a vital. Thanks for that. Thank you, Achintya. Malini.
Earlier, you were speaking about the body and, like washing the car, taking care of the car, and then forgetting about the driver of the car. And that Vidura is really giving all energy to the soul
Yeah.
itself. And I was wondering, some of us, we have constantly, challenge with the body.
Yeah.
And what if the consciousness of taking care of the body is to take care of the soul? Because what's the difference between, taking care of the body or doing something? Yes. There is people profession to do car detailing, for example, or for example, they fix car.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that, yes, of course, we don't want to identify and be absorbed in the body and forget the self. But for some of us, maybe taking care of the body is a direct service.
Spiritual service, yeah.
Spiritual service, because why is taking care of that body? For example, let's say you have a gardener.
Yeah.
Okay, garden for Krishna. So he take care of the earth, he take care of all vegetables. And what's the difference? I know I'm a little impersonal in looking at that, but there is, what is the difference? Or is there a difference between this kind of activity and that kind of activity? This kind of activity being outside of the body, this kind of activity being towards the body.
Well, thank you, Melanie. If I'm, understanding what you're saying, you're making it a very vital distinction. So the body is a temple of God. So we don't want to disrespect it. We want to care for it. And then to what extent in caring for the body, taking care of it, so to prevent it from getting sick and injured. In one sense, the body is a disease. The material body, it's a manifestation of a diseased consciousness. But to take care of the body and take care of it when the body gets sick or injured, to prevent it from getting sick. Yes, the body is temple of God. So just like here is a temple. This so the Govinda and Dhamma, their home's a temple for Krishna. So our body is a temple of God. So to what extent in taking care, in eating, in bathing, in exercising, what extent am I in a consciousness of, I want to care for this body. I want to care for this body so I can use it in Prabhupada's service, in Krishna's service. And to what extent am I in caring for the body? Am I in a consciousness of from my sense gratification of my material ego? And to what extent in caring for the body am I entangling myself further in the illusion that I am my body? So we're not meant to neglect the body, and neither are we meant to indulge in it in a way where we get entangled in the illusion that we are matter. So we're meant to care for the body as a temple of God and to cultivate that consciousness, that I want to rest this body nicely and take care of it and be balanced in eating. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yuktahara viharasya yukteshtasa karmasu yuktasana vibodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. He says it's important on this path of bhakti to be balanced in eating, in sleeping, in recreation, in work, to be balanced. So what's our consciousness in caring for the body? Is our consciousness, I'm enthusiastic to use this body for bhakti yoga. So let me take care of it in that spirit. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example, like someone could be in construction, someone could be hammering in nails and I'm going to build this house. Then we'll have drinking and all sorts of decadent activity, and I'll enjoy this house in that way. And then someone else across the street can be also hammering the nails and thinking yeah, I'm going to build this house as a temple for Krishna, and we'll use it for kirtan and discussing Bhagavad Gita. So someone who's not in knowledge can see it's the same thing. They're both hammering to build a house, same thing. But no, someone with knowledge is completely different. No, what one is doing the hammering, one is doing the hammering in a way that's entangling himself more and more in misery and illusion, and the other is doing the hammering in a way that's supportive, that's supporting him and his family and everyone in this process of liberation. I see Parampara has his hand up.
Hi, Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I heard Mother Malini mention car detailing, so I thought to for sure that, yeah, my car detailing business, I made a video for it that's on the website, and I say, you know, we know by caring for your car, we're really caring for you because you spend a lot of time in your car and you want to feel good in your car. And so I say something like that. And so for fixing cars, carrying cars, people that, you know, mechanics that fix cars, we're not caring for the car because the car, you know, we're not doing business for the car. The car can't pay us, and the car is not going to be satisfied or not satisfied. So it's like, you know, we're serving the person by fixing their car. So I think that's similar with like perhaps body work or focusing on body, that it's really care for the body so that we feel good inside the body, so that the body's, you know, capable for us. So I think that's similar. It's similar even in the realm of cars. You know what she's talking about. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Parampara, bringing transcendental knowledge even to the realm of car detailing. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
You know, we've been waiting in line, what, 8,400,000 forms to get human body car.
Yeah.
So now, and because in this forum, we can cross the material of this and this board.
Yeah.
So that means, you know, ocean is rough. So you want to make sure you bought the stuff. It's healthy and strong. You can cross it. But if you get a board and you in the morning time you get up and you start beating on it,
Yeah.
and disrespect it, and then your boat cannot take you from A to B. So it's gonna, and the other thing also, if you keep your body healthy, then you have no pain. Then you pretty much can focus on Krishna more.
Yeah.
But if you have lots of pain, you can't focus on Krishna. You're just gonna be totally focused on your body. It's like gonna be like a body concept. Or take lots of painkillers and be a zombie and leave the body with zombie consciousness. So it's better have a healthy body, then you can decide actually when you want to leave this body by your own desire, your own thought, just through the breathing exercises and meditation. You can just leave the body if you want when you're ready. So it's always the better choice. But sometimes when you get too healthy, then your senses are so strong, then you want to enjoy the material world. So then you want to have that, you know, don't go to illusion too much.
Thanks for that. Thank you, Achincha. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your comments. Yeah. So this is Achincha is referencing it in the Vedas. It describes there's 8,400,000 species of life. I think modern biology, they've identified maybe 4 or 5 million. So, but they're identifying more and more. So they're coming towards 8.4 million. And of the species, the human species, every species has a special gift in God's creation, but the human species, Masya Nindriya Pritir Labo Jivete Yavata Jivasti Tapajigasa Notoyascha Karmabi, human species especially meant for self-realization, for inquiring into the absolute truth, those truths that are true in all time and space. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, now that we've achieved the human form, now it's time to inquire in the spirit of Vidur. So other species, they don't get to be asking these questions. Who am I? What's the difference between spirit and matter? What happens at the time of the death of the body? Is there God? What's my relationship with God? So this is so this is a special boat. This is a special vehicle. It's precious, and we're encouraged to take full advantage in the positive sense. And that includes caring for the body responsibly as a temple of God, as a vehicle to cross the ocean of material suffering. And I appreciated, Chincha, you gave both sides of it, that kind of like, if the bodily experience is too hellish, then it's very, very even more challenging to focus on japa, reading Bhagavatam. And so keep it healthy. And then same time, if someone's bodily situation, financial situation, if it's like particularly favorable materially, it doesn't need to be a problem, but then, because similarly, if someone's in great pain physically, well, for some, as Queen Kunti prayed, Janme Shvaya Shrita Shribir, Vedamana Vadapman, Naivrahat Yabidatum Vai Tvama Kinchina Gochura. He said that Krishna, you're the shelter for the materially exhausted, trauma, kinship, gochur. So if someone is in a lot of pain, for some, they might deepen their desperate call, Krishna, Krishna, please engage me in your service. So it could go that way too. If someone has a very comfortable, nice material situation, that can be great. This is conducive for rising early, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, engaging in devotional service with this body. But then what's that?
Sorry.
I was just saying, then at the same time, someone can be like, oh, life is so nice, and they don't get intense about serving God, and they or we or I can just get distracted. Let's surf the internet. Let's enjoy a party life, because life is good, and we don't get that Kivrina Bhakti Yogina Yajeta Purusham Prava. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. There is one aspect of my question that, like, what's the difference, like, between doing service, like, to the body, and doing service to something else, gardening or writing letters or because it's all about the consciousness.
Consciousness.
I could be worshiping the deity or writing letters and doing service, but it's all about me.
Yeah.
Like completely a bodily consciousness of life. And then I could be taking care of my body and really spending a lot of time and energy taking care of my body and not being in a bodily consciousness of life.
Yeah.
So I think that's where my question is going, because I can sense there's something impersonal about it in my thoughts.
About in person.
About, like, it's all one.
Okay.
It's all the same.
I see what you're saying.
If I do this service or that service, it's all dead matter. As long as I'm dealing with matter, it's all dead. It's all diseased, like you said. It's all diseased, but not simply the body is diseased. The carrots too. If I'm a gardener, or
Right.
the emails too. If I do that while identifying with my body.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at nuances there. And it's a true question for me. I don't know if my question is clear.
Well, I think I'm understanding that. Yeah, in one sense, it doesn't matter what service we do. We'd like Srila Prabhupada spend a lot of time caring for the body. He would get massages. He would take the morning walks and like that. But he's doing it with this Krishna consciousness. He's doing it with Krishna consciousness. So it's the consciousness. So in that sense, it's all one. It doesn't matter what service you do, but how Krishna conscious are you in doing the service? How Krishna conscious am I? So that's true. So in essence, it's not impersonal, but we can relate to that in an imbalanced way where our impersonal tendencies come out. Our impersonal tendencies come out, so that in essence, because what service does Krishna and Srila Prabhupada like the best? Book distribution or chanting? Well, the service they appreciate the most is the service that's done with the most pure love and devotion.
Mm-hmm. And
that service for some might be taking a walk to exercise their body because they're doing it with love and devotion to Krishna. So it doesn't. So when we can we can relate to that true philosophical principle in a imbalanced, distorted, and personal way. Whereas it's sort of like because it's actually very personal. It's like, so this morning I can go, okay, so if I get up at 3:30 a.m. to come to the Results for Morning program, or if I sleep till noon to take care of the body, it's all one like that. But no, because no, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Krishna, Sri Vidura, they're a lot more personally pleased for me today to be here by 5 a.m. to do this service rather than sleeping and surfing on the internet. Sure, I could sleep, but I'm not really sleeping. I'm dreaming about Krishna. I could be surfing on the internet that for someone could look like, this is just this is distraction. But maybe my motivation, maybe my inspiration to surf here and there on internet is actually to enhance my capacity to serve Prabhupada. Could be in theory, but practically at every given moment, there are particular ways we can serve externally that will be more pleasing or less pleasing or not pleasing at all to our spiritual authorities who are persons who care about us. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
I have just a response.
Damayanti?
I was comment. Somehow, thank you for the class, and somehow I'm getting from the class that like there's no box. Like spiritual life doesn't happen in a box. You can't get like even devotion. Like, oh, devotion looks like this.
Right.
Devotion feels like this.
Yeah.
Devotion can feel angry. Devotion
Yes.
can be quiet. Devotion could
Yes.
be stillness. Devotion could be a lot of labor. Like it's just there's no box. It's just very individual what the devotion
Yes.
looks like inside the soul.
Yes.
And I love that. So liberating, like devotion to God. Anyway, that's what I'm taking in the class.
Srila Prabhupada would often say, Krishna consciousness, it's never stereotyped, it's never hackneyed, it's never stagnant.
Like, and as soon as you find yourself thinking, oh, I'm doing devotional service and I know what it is, that may be a warning sign. You think you know. You think you know that you're doing devotion for sure. You're guaranteeing yourself. Like I'm just saying, like it just seems like it should be fresh in the moment.
Yes.
According to the individual, or group, but it's just like, yeah, it feels like an adventure then. If devotion to God is like very personal and momentary, like in the moment, like everything has to be in the moment. You can create things that with a future goal, but I just feel like this liberated feeling about it.
Yeah, hearing your sharing, Damayanti, I'm reminded like at the very end of Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya, in his role, he was basically narrating the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And Sanjaya said, in this conversation, it's a thrill at every moment. And Prabhupada emphasizes that. So because if we're brushing our teeth, if we're chanting, whatever we're doing in Krishna consciousness, it's a thrill at every moment. It's an adventure at every moment. And so it is spontaneous. It's never hacked, never stereotyped, never mechanical. And at the same time, there are steady, regular principles we can follow. And to the extent that I follow them with heart, then each day, or at least each year of my life, I experience more and more of that free, spontaneous adventure of the life of the soul in connection with Krishna. So I just want to give that part to.
Like it's not like, oh, as soon as you're feeling a thrill, then you're in the box of spiritual life. Like even that, like no, well, there's still like this possibility of being sober and regulated, and that could be thrilling. So it's just like it's still no box. Like, oh, the thermometer parameter is feeling like a thrill, and I'm on an adventure. I'm spontaneous. I am spiritual. Like it's not even that. So anyway, it's just fun like that.
Very dynamic.
Dynamic, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damayanti. Any other questions or comments?
I like topic, self. Very interesting, you're talking a little bit today about self, yeah? I'm self, it's also God, it's his self, God, yes, self-realization, selfishness. We were self, different types, self. I like this topic.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, original self is Krishna, his self, yes, original person, self means person, personality. Self.
So, yeah. So. Self. So there's a distinction, I think, like in Malini's questions and comments, and so much of the discussion between, I'll call it distinction between self-absorption or selfishness and self-care. So like if we're if we're engaged in self-care on the spiritual, in the bodily platform, mental self-care, intellectually, if we're engaged in self-care in a spirit of self-care to enhance my inspiration to serve Krishna, then that's not selfishness. That's not self-absorption. That's not self-absorption. And it goes both ways. Like and Prabhupada often emphasized, to the extent that we truly know ourselves, then we understand Krishna. We can see like we're all looking to not die. We want to avoid death, whether it's through insurance policies or paying taxes so the government can defend us, or defending my false ego, defense mechanism. So we can say, oh, okay, so just that's because my nature is deathless, so my source must be eternal. We're all looking for happiness, so my source must be full of happiness. And it goes the other way too. To the extent that we understand source, then we deepen our understanding of self. And Bhagavatam just has abundant examples going both ways.
Just nuance. You say, well, we can take care of our body to enhance our spiritual, our devotional service. You just said,
Yeah.
and that's different than what I'm looking at in the term of like, this is a devotional service.
Yes.
It's not like a means to a goal,
Yes.
that it could also be the goal.
Yeah.
Because what's the difference between this devotional service or that devotional
Yeah.
service?
Yeah. Just like writing the email for Krishna, growing the carrots for Krishna, caring for this body for Krishna. That is the goal. That is devotion service.
Yeah. And the goal being like fulfilling the purpose of human life. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hare Bol.
Yeah.